In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Peace be upon you guys. So after Rashad Khalifa's passing, some submitters have discovered that the 4 words of the Bismillah as counted by Rashad occur in exactly 19 verses. So when you count all the verses that have any of the 4 words of the Bismillah, you find out that they exist in 19 verses. And the purpose of this video is to go ahead and demonstrate this for everybody to see, God willing. But first, let's establish some things first. So these are the counts of the 4 words of the Bismillah as Rashad had counted them. And when you notice, each one of them is a multiple of 19. But when you sum up the occurrences of each of the 4 words, you get, and I'm going to go ahead and use the Excel function to do this. Okay, you get 2888. Now, when you already have a multiple of 19 and you add another multiple of 19 to it sequentially, you already expect a multiple of 19. So we already expect this number to be a multiple of 19. That's just a mathematical property. When you sum up any 2 numbers that are a multiple of 19, you're going to have a number that's also a multiple of 19, right? But what's interesting about this number is it's not just a multiple of 19. It's a multiple of 19 twice. So it's 19 times 19 times 8. So it's not just a mathematical property as we would expect, but it indicates that this is an actually significant finding. And I also want to point out that the number 8 is also significant because 19 is the 8th prime number. Now, when you also look at the multipliers, what we find out is that the sum of these themselves is also a multiple of 19. So I'm just going to go ahead, God willing, and write these multipliers, and then we're going to sum these up. Then we're going to divide by 19. And what we find out again is it's actually 19 times 8 as well. Now again, this is not a mathematical property. So there's no reason to expect the sum of the multipliers themselves to also be a multiple of 19, and more specifically a multiple of 19 times 8, the other significant multiplier. And again, 8 is the 19 is the 8th prime number. When you count all the verses in the Quran that have any of the 4 words of the Bismillah, you find out that they occur in 19 verses. Now, Rashad did not know this. It was noted after his passing. And what's interesting is, Rashad, how the Quran says the messenger is not holding back any news. When you look at Appendix 1, at Appendix 2, and Appendix 24, it looks like Rashad just throws every multiple of 19 he could find at you, like, kind of just throwing everything, including the kitchen sink at you. So if this major finding was not pointed out or discussed by Rashad, we can know with confidence that he did not know this. And what's interesting is, God willing, we will verify this here. I have previously verified this, and this is just more for a demonstration in case anybody does not have the means or the time to see for themselves, God willing. I also want to add that this type of alignment where things come together like this as if perfect pieces of a puzzle don't just happen by coincidence, right? This indicates deliberate design, especially since this finding specifically was discovered after Rashad's passing. So that means the way that Rashad had counted the 4 words of the Bismillah is the correct way, the divinely ordained way, the intentional way. And it leads to things come together like this, as if perfect pieces of a puzzle aligning together, indicating divine intentionality behind these counts. Even things that Rashad did not know have come together after he had passed. Okay, so let's, God willing, start verifying his point here. So I just have 4 empty Excel sheets right here, and we're just gonna start with Rahman. What's interesting about Rahman is that it's not in the 2 false verses of 9, 120, and 129. So what we're going to see here is we don't have to delete an occurrence of it because it exists throughout the Quran as a multiple of 19, and it's not in the false verses. So the false verses do not corrupt this count. So the way that we are going to use this is we're just going to go and search up Quran root search, and it's this specific website here. Now this is not a submitter website. It's from Islamicity, and I assume that this is a Sunni website. So we're just going to go ahead and use the way that the way that they calculate things, and we'll see that they do in fact conform with Rashad's count. So the first word is Rahman, and both Rahman and Rahim come from the same root word, So Ra, and then Ha, and then Mim. And then we're going to search that root word. For those who are not familiar with this, God willing, I will walk you through how this works. So we kind of read it from right to left. So it begins with the actual root word that we just typed up, the chapter number it's in, the name of the chapter, the city it was revealed, as in Mecca or Medina, the verse number, the actual text of the verse, and so over here it has the actual word, and more specifically the other column that is very important to point out is this similar column, which gives you the counts of how many of that word is seen here. So there's also another thing I want to point out is when you scroll all the way down, for example, you have Al-Rahman, for example, here, and it tells you there's 112 occurrences of this, but it's at verse 0, and it's part of the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So we're counting the Al-Rahman within the Quran, not within the unnumbered verses, and in fact, even this website recognizes the distinction in the counts. It did not include this with the count that we're counting. Now, Rahim is also part of that word, and we'll come back to this one later. But so the count that we're looking for, the Rahman count, is over here. So and notice there's 57 of these counts here. And what's interesting is that it looks like but a lot of them occur in chapter 19, the Al-Rahman in chapter 19 as well. So God willing, we'll just copy and paste the Al-Rahman counts here. And again, we're only counting Rahman. We're not counting anything that's not Rahman. So, and we're not counting Rahim either, even though it's part of the same root. We'll count that soon, God willing. So let's count. So let's just copy and paste all of this. Okay. Okay, so I should add a column here, and we should start deleting some of these things. So I should add a row here. Okay, so we have the root word, we have the actual name. So we don't need the root word, so we'll just go ahead and delete this. This is the chapter number. We don't need the name of the chapter or where or when it was revealed, so we'll delete that. And this is the verse number, and this is the actual text of the verse, which we don't need. And this is the we don't need that column. This is the significant column here, and then the actual word we're looking for. Okay, so we see here that it exists in 57 times, and if I go ahead and just highlight all the occurrences, Excel will verify for me that they are in that there's 57 occurrences of Rahman. Now, since there's no false verse here, we don't have to delete anything here, since these are all verses of the Quran. Okay, so next is the occurrence of Rahim. So we're going to do the same exercise, and since it has the same root word, we don't have to go back and type it out again. So we already counted the Rahman, which occurs 57 times, and what we see here is Rahim as well, occurring 95 times, and also another variant, Rahiman, occurring 20 times, and 95 plus 20 is 115 times. So it's just up by 1 from 114, and obviously the reason is because of the false verse. But anyway, let's go ahead and just post those into our spreadsheet. 19 and 20. So again, we're only counting the name of God, as in Rahim here. So let's go ahead and post them here. And God willing, we'll remove the columns we don't need. Don't need whether it was in Mecca or Medina. So we have the chapter, we have the verse, we don't need the content of the verse, and we don't need this part. Okay, so let's also copy and paste. Okay, so these are the occurrences of Rahim in the Quran as they were counted. So as we see here, they occur 115 times. But one verse here does not belong, 9:128, and this is a false verse. So that makes our count 114, again, as we showed here. So next is the ism count. So we can just go back here and type in the root word for ism, and the root of ism is sa, mim, and waw. Right? So we see here the occurrences of ism, and the one, so here is the ism that Rashad had counted. And if you notice here, it occurred 19 times. So let's go ahead and copy this into our spreadsheet. So God willing, it's right here. Okay, and these are not in the false verses, so there's nothing else to do here. Is the word Allah, which is going to be obviously the biggest one. So we'll put it here in the root search. So the root of Allah is Aleph, Lam, and He. Now, since it includes so like it's the root, so it's also going to include Ilah, which means lowercase God, but we're only looking for Allah. So God willing, we will count these soon, but I just wanted to demonstrate to you a very easy and visual way, God willing, so you can see that the count is correct. So if we just click on Allah, so Quran Corpus is from the University of Leeds, and it kind of did the same thing. So when I searched up the root for Allah, it tells me that it exists 2,699 times is the proper noun Allah. Now, if you remember, our count here at the beginning was 2698, so it's down by 1, and that's because there is an extra Allah at the end of chapter 9 in verse 129. So we subtract 1 and we get that number. So that verifies that this is the correct count of God. But we're doing more than that. We're trying to verify the number of verses the 4 words of the Bismillah occur in. So what we'll do here, God willing, is we will copy and paste all the occurrences of Allah. I also want to add that up here it has Allah, and it tells you the first occurrence is verse 2:7, but that's just because of the vowel marking. So it includes all of them in the same. But there is also another vowel marking, Allahi, and let me give you an example of what that looks like. It's going to be somewhere down here. And for example, we see here that the first occurrence of Allahi with this downwards vowel marking is in chapter 1, verse 1, right? Which is one of the only 2 places where the Bismillah is an actual verse of the chapter. The other place is in chapter 27, which has 2 Bismillahs, and it also has one within the chapter where Solomon writes Bismillah to Queen Sheba. So okay, so we're just going to copy and paste all the occurrences of Allah, God willing, into that spreadsheet. And the reason why I'm not going to skip past this video is so you can kind of follow along and see what I'm doing, and so that way you can verify that I copied and pasted it correctly and all of that. So let's go ahead, and you're encouraged to do this yourself, obviously, but it's also just scroll all the way down until the last occurrence. Okay, so last occurrence would be right here. We should note that this word here, Allahuma, does not mean Allah, right? It means our Lord, and even this website recognizes that there's 5 occurrences separate from that one. I also want to add that down here we have the verse zeros. So this is the Bismillahs that are not chapter 1 because it's actually part of the Quran. So even this website recognizes that distinction. Okay, so we'll copy and paste this, God willing. So we'll just delete the ones that we have deleted before. We don't need where it's revealed in the name of the chapter. We don't need the content of the verse. and we don't need this column as well. Okay, we should also insert as we did before. Okay, and let's also copy and paste these. Okay, so these are the occurrences of all the words of Allah. Okay, so as we see here, we can just count them all so you can see for yourself. So it's probably it is going to be, God willing, 2699, but because of the one false verse, it would be 26. So that's because the first column was numbered, but it tells you here the count is 2699. So we verified that the correct count is one verse, one count less, because of chapter 9, 129, so it becomes 2698. Okay, so now to calculate the counts of each of these words, we should, God willing, combine them together and see the number of verses they occur in. So let's go ahead and begin with the counts of the word Allah. Copy this, paste it here, also do ism. Rahim. And Rahman. Okay. So we have all of these counts here. So what we're going to do, God willing, is we're going to sort them out first and combine them. So God willing, we'll copy this chapter here, post it here, we'll copy this verse here. Okay, so now we have the chapter and the verse numbers together. And what I want to do is I want to sort them from smallest to largest. And okay, so it's going to ask you to expand the selection, and expanding it means that we're also going to include this to be tied with this. So like when it sorts these in order, it will keep this column with the verse numbers with the chapter numbers. Right, so here they are sorted. So now because this is sorted and we took this column with it, this column is no longer relevant. So we're just going to ignore that column there. We're just going to move to the right. Okay, so now we have the chapter and the verse numbers sorted in order. Okay, so now we have to combine these so we can be able to remove the duplicates of them, God willing. So there is a special Excel function that can allow us to do this. So we click on the click and then I'm going to add a space here so that there's a space between the verses. Oops, I have to do that one correctly. And then a space, and then another and then the next value. Okay, so we're left with these are the chapter and verse numbers, and we're just going to combine them for all the verses we have here. Okay, so now we have the combined column where the chapter and verse numbers are combined. The next thing to do is to remove the duplicates. So we'll go ahead and paste, and what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to paste the values, and the reason I'm going to paste the values is because it lacks the formula within it, so it's not going to mess with anything, God willing. And so now that the values are pasted, there is an Excel function within the data where it allows you to remove duplicates. So God willing, we'll remove the duplicates of column L. So, and here's an example of a duplicate. We have verse 1:1, and we have verse 1:1, and we have verse 1:1, right? So we're just going to go ahead and you're going to see it in action, God willing. So as it removes here, we have so like we're also going to include the first row as well. We'll do the count in just a second, but you see here how 1:1 is only one time, so we don't have duplicates here. So God willing, let's count what we have here. Let's just scroll all the way down and count what we have. Okay, so we end up with 1921 of them. So there's 1921 occurrences of verses that contain at least one of the 4 words of the Bismillah. So in other words, there are 1921 verses that have any of the 4 words of the Bismillah, right? So, but this includes the 2 false verses which we did not remove. So if we take away 2 from this number, we are left with 1919. So in other words, when we take out the 2 false verses, the Quran the real Quran has 19 verses that contain each of the 4 words of the Bismillah. This was discovered after Rashad's passing. And so, Rashad posts as many multiples of 19 as not just him, but anybody he knows finds in his appendices. And the fact he did not post this indicates he doesn't know it. And things coming together like this, as if perfect pieces of a puzzle. When you take out the 2 false verses, it just shows you the divine intentionality behind these counts. That it wasn't just an off-way count, that Rashad had just decided things to be counted that way when they paid to these perfect pieces of a puzzle aligning together like that, including this finding, which is very significant. I had not previously known about this until very recently, and praise God, we have been able to verify it. All praise be to God alone. All praise be to God, the Lord of the universe.